Earlier this week, Natan Sharansky spoke at the Sheva Brachot, at the wedding celebration in honor of Benaya and Netta Dickstein. Benaya's parents, Yossi and Chana, were murdered in a terrorist attack when Benaya was 7 years old. And at this gathering, this joyful gathering with mixed emotion, Natan Sharansky reflected, when I was growing up in Ukraine, there were many nations and nationalities. There were those with identity papers that read Russian, Ukrainian, Georgian, Cossack. This was not so important, because there wasn't much difference between them in their status, but the single designation that stood out was Jew. And that's what was written on my papers. It was as if we were tainted. We, of course, knew nothing about Judaism in the Soviet era. There was nothing significant about our Jewish identity other than the anti-Semitism and the hatred and the discrimination that we experienced because of it. This week, however, Sharansky, the great figure of the Soviet Jewry movement, he says, "This week I was reminded of those days when I saw thousands of people standing at the borders of Ukraine trying to escape. They're standing there day and night, and there is only one word that might bring them to the front of the line to their freedom: Jew. If you are a Jew, there are Jews outside who care about you, who are waiting for you, who are looking for you. There is someone on the other side of the border who is searching for you, and your chances of leaving are increased because of it." Sharansky concluded at this wedding celebration, "The world has changed. When I was a child, Jew was an unfortunate designation. No one envied us, but today on the Ukrainian border, identifying as a Jew is a most fortunate circumstance. It describes those who have a place to go, those who have family, in fact, an entire nation waiting for them on the other side." The last words of this week's Torah portion are the last words of the book of Exodus. And there it is written, "When the cloud lifted from the tabernacle and the Israelites were sent out on their various journeys, if the cloud did not lift, they would not set out until such a time as it did lift. For over the tabernacle a cloud of the eternal God rested by day, and a fire would appear in the cloud by night, in the view of all the household of Israel throughout all their journey wanderings." Since biblical times, we have been a people of wanderings. We are a people of migrations, and we are always on the lookout for signals, when to advance, when to stay put, looking for a cloud or a pillar of fire or a hint of information that might signal to us, now is the time to move, now is the time to hunker down. And throughout our Torah text, again and again and again, 36 times it is written one way or another, "You shall love the stranger. You shall not harm the stranger. For you know the feelings of a stranger, having yourselves once been strangers in the land of Egypt." Why the repetition? One, because it is not easy to do. Two, because it is all too easy to avoid. And three, because it seems our work is never done. How we treat the stranger, the migrant, the asylum seeker, the refugee, it seems our work is never done. Article 14 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, written in 1951 in the aftermath of the Second World War, in the aftermath of the Holocaust, there it asserts that everyone has the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. In recent years, Canada has garnered a reputation as a world leader in refugee resettlement. According to a United Nations Refugee Agency report in 2019, Canada ranked first among 26 countries in refugee resettlement. Since August, Canada has welcomed 7,250 Afghan refugees as part of Canada's commitment to welcome at least 40,000 refugees from Afghanistan to Canada over the next 2 years, in addition to welcoming and absorbing other refugees from around the world. It seems we are moving from one refugee crisis to another, and we must prepare. This Shabbat across North America, across Europe, is being marked, recognized, observed as Refugee Shabbat. This was an initiative of JIAS, the Jewish Immigrant Aid Society here in Canada, and HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society elsewhere in the world. It was planned many, many months ago. No one could have anticipated that this would be the very week when millions are 1 million fleeing Ukraine and another million displaced within Ukraine's borders. For Canada, there are 2 ways to welcome refugees. One is through government sponsorship, and the other is through private sponsorship. And because we must prepare, I want to speak very practically today so that you can consider how you can be a part of this humanitarian effort. Remarkably, 2/3 of Canada's recent refugees have come through private sponsorships, which offer hands-on, community-based, grassroots support. This approach is shown by social scientists to be slightly better in terms of successful outcomes for the newcomers, better integration than through the government-sponsored newcomers. This grassroots model of private sponsorship is now being emulated south of the border and around the world. In this way, Canada is a model for the world to see. And Holy Blossom Temple has devoted itself to individuals and the families that we sponsor through these private sponsorships. JIAS is celebrating its centennial anniversary this year. Since 1922, JIAS Toronto has welcomed waves of Jewish immigrants and refugees from post-war Europe and North Africa, the former Soviet Union, South Africa, Syria, the former Yugoslavia, Argentina, and Israel. JIAS partners with other Jewish social service organizations that you support, like Kehillah for affordable housing, like JF&CS, Jewish Family and Child Services, for counseling and a myriad of supports, Jewish Vocational Society for opportunity and the dignity of work, and also JACS, the Jewish Addiction Community Services. There is this network within the Jewish community of Toronto that works seamlessly to support not only those who have lived here perhaps for generations, but also Jewish newcomers. And JIAS Toronto, I want you to know, has earned such a fine reputation that it has been designated as the only Jewish sponsorship agreement holder by the Canadian government. With this designation, JIAS can work with dozens of community groups to sponsor and bring refugees to safe haven. Since 2015, JIAS has been able to exponentially expand its mandate because of this certification as an SAH, a sponsorship agreement holder, And so we have brought non-Jewish refugees. The Jewish community has supported non-Jewish newcomers from many countries, including Syria, Iraq, Rwanda, Eritrea, and Afghanistan. And soon, I imagine, Ukraine, both Jewish and non-Jewish citizens of Ukraine. So as we are gathered here for prayer at this very moment, it doesn't take much of an imagination to picture the scene where Hayes is working on the ground with the Joint Distribution Committee, the JDC, an international Jewish organization that provides for Jews throughout the diaspora, also working with our own World Union for Progressive Judaism. Our congregant, Carol Sterling, is the chair of the World Union for Progressive Judaism. We honor her this Shabbat, this refugee Shabbat, for her hard work day and night, I assure you, across the time zones, day and night, trying to create a network on the ground with the Jewish communities in Warsaw and Krakow, so that they can provide housing and transportation for new arrivals from Ukraine. Under the leadership of Jackie Friedland and with Jaius as our professional partner, we at Holy Blossom Temple have welcomed and resettled 40 newcomers in the last few years, and we are preparing for more. So I hope you are asking yourself now, how can I help? What can I do? Just this week, one congregant called to say that he's afraid that as we turn our attention to Ukraine, as we must, Canada will fall short of fulfilling its obligation to newcomers from Afghanistan. And so he called me for some guidance in how he could make a significant contribution for that effort. And I know he'll be there for Ukraine as well. Also this week, another congregant called to say, we have a basement apartment. Tell Jackie Friedland we're ready whenever she should need to send a refugee family our way. This extraordinary community rises to the occasion every time, and we will again. The best antidote to feeling helpless when the world seems to be coming undone is to do something. When we read the headlines and are overwhelmed by the needless suffering, what can we do? We find our way to Rahmanis, to compassion. We find our way to righteousness and tzedakah, generosity. And it's not only generosity of our hard-earned dollars, but also generosity of time and generosity of spirit. So here are a few examples. You can volunteer as a professional mentor and a professional networker for newcomers who are pursuing job security here in their new home. And Jaius can help match you with people in your field. You can volunteer to help with conversational English, just to go for a walk with a newcomer or to share a cup of tea if you're comfortable, and to give them opportunities to practice their English. It takes a measure of patience, careful listening, and it makes all the difference. You can volunteer to tutor school children whose parents might not yet be able to help with homework because of their own barriers to literacy and language. You can be a coach for basic life lessons, like how to use public transportation to get around the city, how to grocery shop on a budget, how to use a smartphone to navigate the city. There are some professionals who are needed for pro bono work, dentists, physiotherapists, and psychosocial counseling. Of course, you can donate to Jaius and to the World Union for Progressive Judaism. The website, Holy Blossom's website, has those links right at the top. Jaius can expertly allocate funds for rent, supplementary rent for health expenses and for extracurricular activity for children and teens. You can also keep an eye out for a call from Holy Blossom Temple. We put out a call from time to time saying we need stuff. We need physical things for the newcomers, like furniture and clothing and kitchen supplies and bicycles and toys and laptops. And then, greatest of all would be if you could create a circle of 5 friends or 5 fellow congregants and fill out a refugee sponsorship application form to say you would be a guarantor and welcome newcomers. Tonight there is a special Havdalah offered across Canada, sponsored by Jayas. You can join us there to take strength from one another, to take inspiration from the stories that will be shared by courageous newcomers to Canada. And we say at the end of our parsha, Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek. Be strong, and let us strengthen one another. That is our mantra this week and in the weeks to come. So let me conclude now with this prayer for Ukraine. Holy One, source of strength, war has begun and innocent people are dying. We ask for your protection over Ukraine and its citizens. We pray for their safety and the security of their borders, and for the neighboring countries who are coming to their aid. We pray for those who are opening their homes to provide humanitarian relief and safe passage for those who wish to evacuate. Quiet the fears that threaten to deafen us. Grant us shlemut, inner peace, which will help those who are fleeing for their very lives to remain calm and to find those who are reaching out to them. Bless our world leaders with the ability to work together for the greater good and the wisdom to make wise decisions during these turbulent times. Bless the people of all nations with the desire, the strength, the courage to recalibrate the world order so that it will be based once again on justice and filled with peace. May the words of our prophet Isaiah come to fulfillment, that nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. O God, source of all goodness, shine your healing light on those in Ukraine. We hold them close in our hearts this Shabbat. Shelter them, shield them, show them the path to peace, and inspire each one of us now to use our unique gifts and our unique opportunities here in Canada to usher in an era of enduring peace. And together we say, Amen.